Hi, it's Peg, and today's video is on Earth Day. Now, I know you guys know about Earth Day. We've been hearing about it for the last 50 years. Yes, this is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And what we are celebrating, or what we're talking about, is taking care of our Earth, preserving it for our next generation, taking care of the environment so that we can breathe clean air and have a healthy place to live. So, Earth Day started back in 1970, and it was about public consciousness of the state of our planet. And I think we've done a lot to clean up air pollution and many of the things that were controversial back in the 70s. But what I'm coming to you today to do is not just talk about Earth Day and the history of Earth Day, but to talk about art and collaborations and, the things that we can do in our everyday practices that will contribute to this. I mean, one of which is, just reusing our rags that we use for art. I wash many of the old t-shirt pieces that I'm recycling that I use for my paint rags, and being conscious of not just pouring things down the drain, but being careful about how we dispose of many of our paints and supplies that need to be dealt with in a careful way when we recycle, so that we're not polluting the environment with these products. Dry out your paint jars and put them into the recycle bin, and just be conscious of the fact that we are using up our natural resources when we use these things. So what I'm doing today is I have a journal, and Shell and I swapped out some digital art. Many times we create things and we scan them, and in Art Joyous Sharing this month we're talking about tools and tools in art. And one of the things that you can use as a tool is your own art and your copy machine and your printer, and take your art, scan it, and use it in multiple ways. So I have these painty papers. Shell made two and I made two, and we stuck with this orange, green, blue kind of combo. And I'm just making some floral pieces here, using my Sharpie and other pens, and cutting out the paper and creating some flower petals. I started off in a, what do they call it, traveler size notebook, and I gessoed the page, and then I used some Martha Stewart paint in a gray blue for the background. And once that had dried, I came back to my page with some crackle paste. This is from DecoArt Media, and I put a layer of crackle paste down, and I'm letting that dry while I'm working on these flower petals, because I intend to glue these onto the page. So here you can see where I just took some of those digital images, and I'm cutting some stems for my flowers, and some leaves, and I just fold the papers over, that way I can get 2 and 3 different ones at the same time. I did the same thing when I created the flowers. And now I'm figuring out where I want those things to go on the page. So I'll get my Yoo-Hoo glue stick and just start gluing some of these things down to the page. But first I want to emphasize that crackle. So I have some other Deco Art products. I have Deco Art Media Fluid Acrylic and Deco Art Gel Stain. The fluid acrylic is in a quinacridone gold and the gel stain is ebony. And I'm just going to take a watered down version of those and dab it on and take a rag and, you know, pull it back a little bit. I want it to get down into the cracks and crevices and show that crackle finish that we created. It's really pretty cool. I love that antique look that you get with a crackle finish. So yeah, just dabbing, playing back and forth until I get what I want. And then I will get out some stamps and some archival inks and use those in the background before I start gluing. So if you're new to my channel and you like this type of content, be sure and hit that subscribe and the bell for notifications so that you know when I'm coming back on. Also, check out my sister channel, that's Art Joy of Sharing. I do a live stream each week with Shell C, and sometimes multiple times a week, and you may enjoy that also. We have a Facebook group, Art Joy of Sharing, and you can come and join us over there and show us what you have done. Share your work with us so that we can see it. And you can also, you know, if we use hashtags and things, you can use our hashtags and put it in any social media so that we can find your work and see what you're doing. So you can see I'm just doing some edging here with this texture type stamp. I think that's an Andy Skinner stamp, and I have several others of, you know, my favorites that I like to use. The numbers and letters and that sort of thing in the background are always a welcome addition. And I just have a couple of little trays that are full of those types of stamps that I will use to apply ink to my backgrounds. It's just one of those things that I like to do. So now I'm grabbing that Yoo-Hoo glue stick, getting my flowers out, going to figure out where I want these things to go and how I want to layer them up on the page. And I'm going to put a quote on this page. Since we're talking about Earth Day, my quote is going to pertain to that because, you know, everybody uses that Earth laughs in flowers quote, and I think it's appropriate for Earth Day. But my quote today says, Earth care, as it turns out, is really about self-care and other care. What we design today impacts how we live tomorrow. For better or worse, it impacts far into upcoming generations. And that's from L.L. Barkat. So I thought, because we're talking about the impact that we have on our earth and what we can do to make a difference. And right now we're not going to go out and march in the streets because, you know, we've got this pandemic going on, and this certainly pertains to the fragileness of people and our earth, and how we share everything. We're all in this together. So I just wanted to use a quote that was about our earth, about earth care, about Earth Day, about our future, about care for ourselves and others, and survival and sustainability. Those things are all very important. So what I'll do when I get this all glued down is I will take some matte medium and coat everything on the page just to make sure it's all sealed in and I don't have any of that paint flaking off, and I have a nice smooth surface to work on because I'm going to come back with my big brush Pitt pens and add some shading around the flowers before I add my quotes and things. So part of what I like to do and what Shell likes to do is that drawing, what do they call it, animation. We tend to not just paint but to animate things. So I will use my Posca pens and my piece, what do they call that? It's like a stamping piece from Ranger that Diane Reevely uses to make her lines across her page, and I'm going to use that to make a place for me to write my quote. And I'll just use a Posca pen to put that in. I'll use both the black and white Posca on this. I don't know if I got the final shots with the white pen in there, but if you go over to Art Joy Sharing and on my Instagram, I certainly post more photos there. This is about the videos are mostly about the process, the making of the pages and art that we do. And then the final things are in Art Joy Sharing and on my Instagram page. Or I also have an art page on Facebook, which is called Bits and Pieces, where I typically post from my blog, from my Instagram, from just about everything. It dumps into that Bits and Pieces page. So a lot of times I don't friend people on Facebook, and it's not because I don't want to friend you, it's because most what I do on Facebook has to do with my art, and so I have my group where people can share with me, which is Art Joy Sharing, and then I also have Bits and Pieces, which is where all of that art stuff dumps into. So my private page just doesn't have all of that artsy stuff on it because that's not what I do. So look for Bits and Pieces if you want to follow, or join Art Joy Sharing, or find me on Instagram. So you can see I'm just starting to do a little bit of that illustration outlining the work here. So here come the big Posca pens, not Posca, what am I trying to say? Big brush Pitt pens, yes. I'm going to use both a blue and an orange here because those are the colors that we're kind of concentrating on here. And the blue, the dark, is going to be towards the dark side, and the orange will be on the top side. As if the sun were reflecting. You want shadow and you want light. So that's what we do. We do both shadow and light. Now you may have noticed that the speed picked up here a little bit. This is 8 times fast because I didn't figure you wanted to watch me do all the highlighting. So we're going to speed that up a bit. We're also going to speed through me writing the quote on here because that takes a little while. You just move the guide down the page, and I use a fine pen to mark my line, and then I use my Posca pen just to write the quote in, And it's kind of a lengthy quote, so it takes me a little while to get it down there. But, you know, just take your time, be patient, write around the images that you have on the page. I'm not writing over the flowers, I'm writing around the flowers. And there you can see as I move down the page with that tool, and then I'll pick up another pen and I'll make another line, because I don't know how many lines I'm going to actually need to get this quote on here. But I want to make sure that I have enough space to get the entire quote, and I certainly will. You know, there's plenty of room on the page. So I'm reading it, trying to figure out what part of the quote I've missed. So I'll finish that up and then invite you to come and join us on Art Joy Sharing, and be sure and check out the links below for Shell's video, because this is a collaboration, remember, and Shell is going to use those same papers to create an art piece of her own, and I'm sure you will enjoy it because her channel is thoroughly enjoyable. So thanks for your kind comments, for sharing, liking, all the things that you do. I want to thank my patrons for the things that they help provide my channel. And if you'd like to contribute to my channel, there are links below that will help you find ways to contribute. And I will see you again next time. So bye for now. Remember to be kind to yourself, to our earth, and love to you all. Bye.